Welcome to the second episode of the Wichita Life Podcast, where we highlight interesting people in or from Wichita. My name is Landon Huslig. I am the host of the Wichita Life Podcast and curator of the Wichita Life ICT Instagram. Our guest today is Lucas Hanson. Lucas graduated from Newman University, where he was captain of the soccer team. After his professional aspirations were sidelined due to an injury, he channeled his drive towards another avenue, app making. Lucas is the CEO of Feest, an app that he and his brother created to help people come together and find food and drink specials in the Wichita area. Without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Lucas Hanson. Hey everybody, I'm here with Lucas Hanson, and I'll just have you start it off and tell a little bit about yourself.
So, I guess by now you know my name's Lucas Hanson. I'm the owner. I think I'm here because I own Feest, which is a mobile app that shows pretty much local restaurant specials and hopefully more events in the future. But right now, local specials. And born and raised in Wichita, Kansas. Went to high school here at Cave Mount Carmel. I went to the University of Kansas for about 2 years and had a gentlemanly wake-up call that I partied too much or something like that, and ended up finding my footing back where it all began, which is with soccer and sports, and that drew me back into actually finishing my education at Newman University. And I'm sure you have questions about everything else, so pretty much this fell into my lap a little bit, and I ended up dedicating a lot of my life to Feest. So
awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to hear more about it. So just back to the soccer, did you play at KU? Do they have a soccer team?
So KU doesn't have a soccer team. They have a club team, and I didn't play with them. My brother, who's the developer of our app, actually played with them. But I didn't see their skill level as very high. So when I was already having worries in my head about wanting to leave for certain reasons, just school wasn't going the way I wanted, and I wasn't paying enough attention to my education necessarily.
Sure.
So I made the decision kind of to take a semester off, reboot, think about what actually mattered to me and what could advance me forward, even though, because that's a weird stage. Like when you're in college and people are like, oh, you have to, right after high school you have to go to college. It's kind of the mindset of a lot of people where I was at, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I think
it's tough to know at 18.
I started with computer engineering. So anyway, I switched from KU for whatever reasons, but they did have a club team. The skill level wasn't as high as what you're going to get at even a D2 or NAIA school. I played at Friends for a short period of time, but I just didn't like the atmosphere. It just didn't fit my personality, I think. But when I found Newman, I actually came on, and I can go into a little bit of detail. I kind of just called him and I asked for a tryout. It was Cliff Brown. He's the coach that's still there. And he pretty much just allowed me to be on the team. He was like, I remember you from high school. You're a pretty good player. He even cool. People didn't, when I played there, I had transfers with credit issues, so I didn't get to play the first year, and that kind of was rough. And I mean, if you have questions about that, the mentality behind that is pretty insane. But he pretty much gave me a shot, and he honestly brought me into his office about maybe 2 months into the season when I wasn't playing, but I was still giving 100% effort. And he told me, he was like, I honestly thought you were going to come in here. I never thought that you would be any kind of game-changing player. And so it really that brought up, I felt like I was in the right place at the right time.
Right.
That
worked out,
yeah. That feeling between not knowing what to do, but giving yourself a little bit of structure in school so that you find where you're supposed to be at that moment. So,
that's cool. Yeah.
So soccer was a really cool avenue for me, and it got me through school.
That's awesome. Well, it's cool to hear that you didn't just give up. I know a lot of people that go to KU or K-State, party for a couple semesters or a couple years, and then they're done. And they might just stay there and just live the college life forever. But
it is what people. It is hard to cope with. If you don't have the right attributes built up in yourself before, if you've been living with your mom and dad, which pretty much everyone has been till then, and then you're thrown into the deep end of KU.
Right.
It's really hard because there's something happening every night. And there's stuff to do all the time besides school, which wouldn't necessarily be the most fun.
For sure. And so you worked your way up to captain, is that right?
Yeah, so actually in that meeting, he had just made John Sensman captain. The next semester he was going to make John Sensman captain. The old people leave, and I was there, and it was funny because I hadn't played a game, and John suggested that I be the captain, and Cliff agreed with it, and he called me into his office, and I was made captain. I hadn't even played a game yet. I just practiced.
Pretty awesome.
That's all it was.
Made a big impact then.
Well, so if you didn't know, that team that year that I showed up, they won 0 games the whole season.
Oh, wow.
0. They went
that.
0-17 or something like that. Something crazy. And
so they were looking for some kind of a change?
Yeah, that had never happened, and they always talked about how we had about 5 players that were really good, but because of credits and stuff, they couldn't play. And the next year, with me and John as captain, we took care of a lot of the political side and the growing money for the team, fundraising. Sure. It helped the team a lot, and we ended up going to I think that year we were in the final for the tournament, for the really playoffs, cool. And we lost to a very good St. Edward's team, but still going from
just a big turnaround. Yeah.
Going from 0 to pretty much 99 is pretty good. We didn't go 100.
Pretty good, yeah, no joke. And so then it kind of ended with a couple injuries. Is that right? You tried to go on a little bit further?
Yeah, I remember it was really funny because the coach, Cliff, he had said something about not wanting players to get injured playing semi-pro, which pretty much is NPSL. I just call it semi-pro because people will ask what's NPSL. It's just a league that's below the professional leagues. And I had a weird thing with the Wichita team here, so I ended up playing in Pennsylvania. Oh, wow. And the coach, I just remember this story the most, was we had to stay in the coach's house the first night. And that very first night, the coach said, Steven, who's the guy that I went with from Newman, Steven Harris, he's a goalie. And he was like, Steven, I love it that you're here. You seem really dedicated in this. And he said the comment, Luke, I know you're just here for fun and you're trying to have a good time. And I didn't say anything in that moment, but I was sitting there like, this dude thinks that I traveled to Pennsylvania to play technically semi-pro soccer for fun. And so the next day we had practice and I shut him off pretty much. All those doubts were shut down. He started me the first game to throw me in the deep end, and I took it by the reins and ended up getting the first assist of the season and played the whole game. He had me and Steven directing warm-ups and stuff like that. So it's almost like I was the captain there.
Yeah.
But you talked about injuries, man. Have you ever injured anything?
I had Tommy John surgery freshman year in high school. So it was freshman year in high school, so it's a little different than that level. But
well, so what happened to me was before then I had snapped my collarbone in half, so my shoulders have always been a little weird. But what happened in Pennsylvania was about right before the 3rd or 4th game of the season, I stole the ball in a scrimmage from the guy who subs me, and he just took me out from behind. He happened to land on top of me awkwardly when my arm was out, dislocated. But if you know anything about, I was playing in Scranton. And Scranton, Pennsylvania. Literally the only thing they're known for is The Office. Yep. I asked, and that's all they said. But yeah, he fell on top of me really awkwardly. And the other thing you need to know about Scranton, terrible roads, right? The roads are awful.
Good to know. If I ever make it down.
It's not like Wichita. Nothing's a grid there. So it took me about 2.5 to 3 hours to get into a hospital and get it put back in. Jeez. So by that time, my arm was, gone. For
a lot worse than it would have been.
Yeah, it's not like on the football, like American football field where they can pop it right back in. If you get it popped right back in, there's not a lot of damage, but the awkwardness and that. So I came back, finished my last season. I tried out for one of the pro teams, KC Sporting's second team, and I was doing well. And then I got taken out by a goalie. I was chesting a ball, and he was behind me. Goalie took me out. I think he was going up to grab the ball, but someone on the bench said it looked like he slipped and his cleats happened to hit my ankle and
freak accident,
cracked, and instantly I had a bowling ball on my foot, and that's where I remember actually getting tears and being like, I think this is something that might actually change my plan, because that was my plan from there. Sure. That's where I was dedicating my time, so that's my plan.
So you did come out of Newman with a degree, though, right? Which is business.
Business administration.
Okay.
I originally was marketing, but my dad had advised me at the time that if you're just marketing, it can kind of close some doors just based on your resume. So I got business admin.
Cool.
Pretty much.
Okay. So then I guess jumping into your app, Feest, did you always see yourself getting into technology or app making, or I guess did you have a plan after school?
Not in the slightest. So I honestly didn't think that would happen at all. The jobs I had worked were like commission sales, so because I'm a talker, you know, so I could sell people stuff. I sold golf clubs and soccer shoes and all that stuff. Made really good money, but then if you work sales for long enough and you don't have like a dying sales heart personality, like it's really hard to stay in that environment for a long time. So I really wanted to move into the marketing world. I went to a bunch of job interviews after my injuries, hated everything because I felt like I couldn't ever be in control of what I was doing. I felt like I was always getting, you know, like what's the phrase? Like someone's watching you pretty much.
Like micromanage.
Yeah. And the jobs, they would say that they're marketing, but technically they were just commission sales. They would say it's a marketing position, but you're paid off of what you sell. And I'm just like, okay, so
not what you're looking for.
Sales. But yeah, I can go into the Feest part.
Yeah, I mean, jump right into it
because it happened right after. So I went to all these job interviews. I honestly got a little depressed around that time because I was like, there's nothing that really I felt was suiting what I wanted. I felt like I was back at KU. You know, and I was just held in a position where I'm like, I don't know what to do, and I can't go back to soccer this time.
Right.
So what is the answer to this problem, pretty much? Because I'm a solutions kind of guy, so it's like if I can't find the solution in my brain, that's really negative. So my dad actually came home from a bar. Is what happened in Andover. I won't say which one, but he got poor service and they didn't have the specials correctly, you know, displayed, and he just was pretty pissed, and he was like, you know, I'd really, really like if I could just flip open my phone, not have to search through Facebook and all this, and I'd really like to just flip open my phone and see the specials. That's all I want to do. And I was like, and I remember I was sitting at the kitchen table listening to him, and I just turned and I said, we could try to do that. Went downstairs. I stayed up till about 3 a.m. Took out I had a big art board thing. Started drawing up some designs and writing little bullet points of like what we're trying to do, what we'd be about. And it ended up my brother's birthday was a few days later. So I was writing all this up for him because I said, you know, I don't have thousands and thousands of dollars to make an app, which is what it costs. If you want to ask that question, it's like, man, it costs some money and it costs a lot of time. Yeah. So I couldn't do it without him. So I was like, I need to make this good enough that he says yes. But he has a full-time job. He has a family.
It has to be really good.
Yeah, so it has to be good. So I remember we pitched it to him on his birthday. He told me he was going to go home and think about it. I think he slept on it, and I got a message at 6 a.m. and he was like, this is going to be really difficult. There's going to be a lot of stuff in our way. And I was like, oh, he's going to say no. And then the last sentence was, let's try it. And that's when it started.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, a couple years ago, I dabbled a little bit with iOS programming, just a couple games, that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's difficult. I had a little bit of programming experience from college, but learning a new language and then trying to build exactly what you're looking for is difficult. That's the perfect
way to word it. It's a new language. I tried to do it too, to just do simple fixes and stuff. And in the amount of time it took me to learn it, it took me still an hour to do something that Sam could do in 4 minutes. So I was like, I'm going to put my effort elsewhere, do a bunch of research.
For sure. Yeah. Was there anything else like that, either nationwide or in Wichita?
There's definitely things like it. Okay. But we changed. I wasn't interested on. There weren't any that succeeded, is what I would say. They're all in 1 or 2 cities. Right. And they have a certain model to them that I didn't like. I was like, okay, why has this been out for 4 years? It looks like they have a lot of downloads, but why haven't they grown? Why has this one been out for 1 year and it's looking insane, but why haven't they grown? And a lot of that was just the little stuff, their pricing model, the way that they make money is a big thing. The other thing is I think they got complacent, which is kind of like a entrepreneur's nightmare.
Right.
If you get complacent where you're at, and maybe that's where you're at, and you're comfortable, and
it might have been what they're going for, but yeah.
But for me and my goals for this thing, I saw that as an opening for me. I was like, okay, so what I'll do is I'll let that guy be complacent. He better hope that he makes enough money by the time I get there.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
take over the market.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Luckily, they're in like Iowa and places like out in the Northeast and places like that, but. They don't make updates very frequently, so I think they're dying out.
Right.
Yeah.
So jump into that. So you guys are currently just in Wichita, and then I think I saw something online, Australia?
Oh, yeah.
How did that come into the picture?
So we had a buddy that played tennis in Oklahoma who was from Australia, and he just was really energetic about it, which I really like. Like, that's the first thing I think I look for is someone who's energetic and really likes the product. Like, if you fall in love with the product, then you're really going to want to push it.
Your heart will be in
So
it.
I saw him as a very energetic, like, good-hearted guy. But we actually did release it in Brisbane, and it ended up there were some political problems because I guess in Australia, you know, we're actually really lucky to have freedom of speech and freedom of how we, like, you know, press, I guess, are the way that we show, display anything to do with our company. They don't have that there.
Okay.
So they
wasn't aware of that.
They have laws in place, and it might not be full, like not like that, but they have laws in place that say you can't entice any kind of drinking. So you can't put like dollar drink special, like that is very frowned upon because I guess they have problems with like 17 to 21 year olds doing cocaine and weird stuff, and I'm just like, oh, I just wanted them to, you know, have a
know where the cheap drinks are to hang out with their buddies.
Like that's the main reason we made Feest, and that was one of the first things I wrote down was we want to be something that's bringing people together just to experience more, get out of the house.
Right.
And they were more, I think they're just worried that a bunch of little kids are going to be drinking. That's pretty funny.
That is funny. So then what's your next step then? So you're going to keep expanding in Wichita and then moving somewhere else?
Australia we had to nip for now until we figure out some legal way to do it correctly.
Right.
Which, being in a different country, it's really hard to manage all that. So I said, you know, let's just pause it. Let's make sure we can make it work here, especially in Wichita because we have such a diverse amount of food places here. So it's a really good testing ground. The goal, I've already reached out to Kansas City and Lawrence places. They already know about it. I want to start getting them on for free and just seeing how the market reacts to those places is one of the big things. And however the market reacts is what we do, right? So
the market is
a lot of the
entrepreneur.
a lot of the entrepreneur game is finding the small things that works and then jumping on them right when it works, and those things can go away the next day.
Yeah, and you might think you have the best strategy, but it's what the market wants.
Exactly. So we've dove into a lot of things, and a lot of it hasn't worked, and some of them have worked, and now we're at a point where we capitalize on what's working. Pretty much.
Very cool. So you're doing this full time then?
Yes.
Your brother has another job and he helps with the development, but you're running this full time.
So I do this full time. It's the hardest thing about the full time of this is you're dealing with people that own the business. It's not like a chain restaurant. Like, we specifically go for family-ish owned companies or franchises. We don't really reach out to chains. So you have to talk to that person directly.
Right.
They could be doing God knows what daily because they're so busy themselves if you meet these people. But you have to find a way to find them and them to take you seriously.
Yeah.
You know, being a new thing, it's hard to
not just some guy or some kid with an app.
Well, half the people think I'm from California. And I'm like, no, I was born and raised here. I went to school here. But they hear,
here's my driver's license.
Yeah. They see 4 different app-sponsored posts on Facebook, and I'm one of them, and they just think I'm another guy from California trying to get them to download an app. And I'm like,
technology and Silicon Valley. I can see where they're going.
But I like the new Facebook changes because it's really they're getting rid of fake accounts, which is nice for small businesses. So advice to small businesses right now: go onto Facebook and put some money in because you're going to actually reach like quality people. That's what we're doing, and it's working like crazy right now.
Awesome. Okay. So you said it's working like crazy. I think I saw one article. I was doing a little bit of research, and October 2017-ish, maybe. You said that you had 500-ish users. So is it blown up then since you're using some of Facebook, or steady traction?
So we just found, like I said, we never found a really good way to get downloads that didn't take a bunch of time or money. We just now found one.
Okay.
So we've gotten about 200 downloads in the last 9 days.
Oh, wow.
That's which was insane. I put out an ad, and I wanted to see if it worked. I let it run for 4 days. It was working so well that I just kept putting money into it. And now it's...
Feed the beast, yeah.
And it's just, people think it's very simple. It tells you the information you need, and they're like, this is awesome. So, that's pretty much where we're at right now. We have about... I'd have to go look because of the quick adding of these people, but it's over 2,500 now.
Nice. That's exciting.
I'm pretty sure.
Hopefully, we're hitting the hockey stick.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
thinking it's been consistent daily now that it's just increasing. So now people are telling their friends.
Oh yeah,
and that's
it's just going to grow exponentially. Word of mouth is the best way to.
It's the best, especially for an app, because there's 1,000 apps made per day. If you didn't know, there's 1,000, and we're in the top 33%. We're only in one city, so it's really nice.
That's pretty awesome. So the name Feast, did you come up with that? Your family?
I came up with it, yeah. So at the time that I made the name, obviously we ran through like.
I was going to say, is there a trash bin somewhere?
It originally was going to be called the specials board, because the local places, they always have like a chalkboard that shows you the specials, and they'll erase it.
It's not bad, not quite as catchy, but not bad.
But it just seemed really weird for an app to have like the specials board. It's like the Facebook. They got rid of the. So
simple.
So I honestly looked up. I thought we were Dutch. I thought my family was Dutch. I always followed Netherlands soccer. I really liked all Netherlands players, and I remember my dad telling me we're Dutch. Hanson is a Dutch name, and I started looking for just words that I thought were catchy, and one word popped up, and it was Feest, and they actually pronounce it like Feist.
Oh, okay.
But I said, well, this is a play on words, feast. It actually in Dutch means festival or to party.
Perfect.
Which is what we're going for. We want people to go have a good time. So it actually just fell in our lap. Turns out, like a month later, my brother got a DNA test, and we are European, but I don't think we're Dutch. So that's really funny.
Makes for a good story.
I know. I'm like, shoot. I still sometimes tell people that it's because my family's Dutch, because I really wish we were Dutch deep down.
That is pretty funny.
I love Netherlands soccer.
So the business model, since you're running it full time, do you just go ahead and reach out to individual companies one by one, or do they reach out to you?
Yeah, I've had some reach out to me, mainly recently, but most of the time I'm reaching out to them, and like I said, half my day is probably spent just trying to reach them.
Sure.
And getting, you could email them, and I'm like, I already have his email. I got that like 2 days ago. I'm like, I just need to talk to him for 2 seconds. Like, the meeting will take 5 minutes, but that's the hardest part. With this new ad, getting people to download is pretty easy. So, and it's valuable. It's free.
And the more people that download, the more restaurants will hear about it.
Exactly, and that's kind of the avenue we're going now. We switched gears, but if you ask business model, yes, I personally pretty much knock on your door and say,
door to door,
hey, this is what here's my numbers, here's what I can give you, here's what we're all about, is probably the main thing that people are interested in. Like, what are we actually trying to do? We're not trying to get people drunk. We're not trying to just get people fat. We're trying to get you to have a good time instead of watching the same show on Netflix 5 times in the same 2 weeks. Which I've done, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I watch Arrested Development a ton.
It's all right to do it every now and then.
Yeah.
So how many restaurants are signed up so far? And I'm sure it's growing daily or weekly, but...
It's mainly weekly, and there's about 13 currently on there. I'm hoping to grow. Like I said, I think I told you earlier before this, I had like 8 meetings that went really well. The main thing is people want to have time to decide what they want to put on it. So they obviously want to get that stuff together before they give that information over to me, and they pay that day. So it's like, it's a monthly charge. Sure. So it's like, they want to get their stuff together to get the full value.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we were talking earlier about other avenues that people are using in Wichita, and I was like, dude, if it's anything to do with coupons, it's not working. Like, if it's a coupon, that was one of my dad's things when we built the app. He said, Luke, if you put a bring-in special with a piece of paper or something, he's like, I'll hit you. I don't want to bring anything.
Yeah, it's not a big return.
No, it's like maybe a show the Feest app thing would be
right.
cool, but if it's bringing in a piece of paper, it's not going to work.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. So what does your long game look like, or Feast's long game? Is your goal right now just to keep growing Feast and see where that takes you?
Yeah, so like I said, we reacted to the market super hard, and reacting to the market also means like reacting to your customer market, I guess you could say. So what were the questions that customers, what did I think they were going to ask? What did I think their knowledge level was versus what was actually happening? And what was actually happening is they really just wanted views. They want it to be a thing in their personal life before they get on. So those are the main two things, and the way to solve those problems is just get more downloads, get more people using it, seeing a cool thing. There's enough content on there that they're going to be satisfied for long enough that if we're getting 1 or 2 a week added on, especially now, literally we've been doing the big push for 9 days now. Yeah. So we don't have too much to show for it besides the massive amount of downloads. Like
it's just made a snowball effect.
Yeah. So we just need one person to see it. One person from TV or someone that can give me, because we can't pay for radio. We did everything out of our pocket, and that's too expensive for us. But just one person, the right person to see it, is what we need to go to the next level, or we're just going to keep doing this ad that's working.
Yeah.
We'll take ourselves.
And if it works, it works.
Yeah, we just know the product is good. It's really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if somebody had an idea similar to Feast, let's say somebody is thinking of one right now, what would you recommend? How would you have them get started, or what would you say they should do?
I can say that every person in Wichita that has an idea that's similar to Feast has contacted me. They've literally been like, hey, do you want to work on it? Like, that happens.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And it's perfectly fine, and some people try to steal the idea, but then once they try to go with it for about a few days, they realize how much work it actually is to build an app and how much time it takes, and they're like, no, I don't want to do that. And that's respect to other people that can do that, because it's really difficult. Like, I'm really thankful to have my brother there with me, because his skill level was so high that we didn't have to pay tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it's really expensive,
People want him to make apps for them and stuff, and honestly, if we don't see value in the app, I don't even think about making it for them. But I think the generic question right there was, what are we going to do from then on? Or
just recommendation for other people if they had either way.
The last person that came to me, they messaged me on Facebook and said, hey, I wanted to ask you a few questions. Right? I answer all questions, and I answer very honestly all the time.
So you got back to me super quick.
Yeah, I'm a blunt guy. I get back to people really fast because I believe like the app is about connecting people. That's exactly what I do in my life. And I give them advice, and I say, well, do you have a lot of money? And if they're instantly like, no, I go, what you should do is possibly go to WSU. We're right next door to there doing this thing, but go to WSU, go up to if they have computer science or something like that, or go to KU, go up to the teacher who's maybe with the seniors in some of their last classes and be like, who's your best student? Because those people are most likely the people who have gotten through. They're hungry. They want to use their creativity.
And they want to build something.
And they want to build something. They want to use their knowledge that honestly people can get from like YouTube and stuff now, but like they actually went through the process. So that's a really good person to see. In my opinion, I would definitely do that. I would go up, and we thought about doing that for a little bit, but then Sam worked so well that we didn't have to.
Didn't need to.
But you can get an intern. All you have to do is make them super excited about the idea, and the idea obviously has to be good. Right. Like, you can't have a crap idea and expect a guy to want to work for free for it, right? Be like, you'll get X amount, I'll do this is why it worked out, I'll do the business side, you make the product, and that's how it works. Like, you gotta see how you can make it happen. There's always a way to make it happen. Always a way, you just gotta find the way.
Sure. So people came to you guys and asked for you guys to make their app? That's interesting.
Yeah. If Sam had time, we could have charged some dollars. We had one guy from Vegas who asked us to. He had paid, I think, $100,000 for some app that connect. I think it's like a connection app. It's not like Tinder or anything, but it's like you can reserve a table, like a table at a club. It was one of those, and they would work with certain companies and do that. He asked us to look over it because they third-partied it out, which I highly suggest no one to do. Don't third-party it out. Be active in the app that you want made. They third-partied it out. The guy finished exactly what they wanted. That's what he's going to do. Whatever you write up, he will do it. He didn't fix any of the bugs that were in it. So right when we put out a 1.0, we had to put out a 1.1.
Right. Immediately after you noticed something.
Yeah. 2 weeks later. Yeah. 2 weeks later, we put out a 1.1. Now we're at 2.0.1, which is hilarious. But and we have another one that's going to come out, just a bug fix. That's you just got to do that stuff.
Continually keep
the person didn't want to do it. He came to us trying to get us to just look over it, fix it, and he was going to pay us dollars. But like I said, Sam has a really safe, good job up in Kansas City, and he you just can't. When you have a family, you can't risk everything. He's already risking some stuff by spending his nights working on this. So he's like, I can't risk more. Like that's just doesn't make sense for him.
That makes sense. And I'm not sure if you said or not, but how long did it take from idea to 1.0?
I had a version on my phone. There's an app called Test Flight. So if you make an app, maybe you have it. You put it on Test Flight. That's how people test out their apps, and I can have other people test it out. I think it was 8 months. I want to say 8 months from me drawing on the board, on that art pad to me having it on my phone was 8 months. I think we released 2 months after that.
That's
because
awesome.
we got confident to put it.
Fix some bugs and
that
makes sense. All right, so we're going to switch gears a little bit. These are just kind of some general questions that I've picked up from other podcasts and whatnot. So what does your morning routine look like, or how did you go about developing that routine, if you have one?
I actually do. It has nothing to do with work, honestly. I mean, it has nothing to do with work and everything to do with my mindset for the day now. Yeah. And I really recently changed this because of a few books I've been reading and things like that. But so right now I wake up in the morning. I sleep now with my phone downstairs, and I have an alarm clock because my phone buzzes. I actually turn off notifications on a lot of my apps because my phone on Facebook obviously buzzes constantly.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I leave my phone downstairs. I wake up. Usually I turn off my alarm, and I'll do the classic, like lay there for 5 or 10 minutes and just chill. But I will get up, kind of think about my day. I actually go through a little thought process, like what do I want to get done today? And then that usually takes literally 2 minutes. And I'm like, well, even if I don't know what I'm going to get done today, I can at least take a shower. Sure. So I take a shower, I get ready for the day, and I put on some nice clothes because I feel like that's really important in setting your mind. Success. Like, and I even stopped wearing just this because I felt like it was too casual in the last few weeks. I really want to be professional. And so I'll get dressed. I don't brush my teeth. I actually go downstairs, and I haven't done this in a couple days, but I need to get back to it. I eat 2 eggs and a glass of water. Okay. So it's just 2 eggs. I like mine real yolky and stuff. So I make 2 eggs because I'm like, instantly I want to wake up and be like, I can do something right. I know I can make 2 eggs. Right. Okay. So I'm setting myself up.
Good start to the day.
Yeah, I'm setting my morning up like I won. I'm like, I won. Suck at
success
eggs. Like,
right off the bat.
It's really fun. It's funny how I do that. I feel like it's little games I play with myself, but that's what I do. And then I go upstairs, I brush my teeth, and then that's when I grab my cell phone. Usually,
sure, that's awesome.
So it takes a little bit of time, but the reason I do that, or sometimes I change it and I won't shower, but I'll work out and come home and shower. Right. So it depends on what I already have planned. But mainly that's the main part of my day is just 2 eggs.
Is that 2 eggs? All right, everybody, 2 eggs. Remember that.
2 eggs.
So are you an early riser, or do you sleep in a little bit? Or?
I don't know. I know I'm a night owl for sure. Like I guess
a lot of app developers are.
Yeah, I try to go to bed at like 9 p.m. sometimes. I'll just lay there. Or something. So that's why I started reading more books, because at least from I think at usually anytime between 10 to 11 I'll start reading my book so that by midnight I can fall asleep. Sure. I'm a video gamer, man, and stuff like that. So sometimes
the screens.
My brother is too. Like we grew up with that stuff, and it was a great way for us to bond. But if you ever game, you're setting yourself up to be a night owl till like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
A lot.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so we go to bed. I go to bed now. I try to go to bed at an earlier time.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle to wake up, and I think that's why I had to do what you said, like have my little morning routine.
Right. Yeah, you're taking the right steps. What is something you often recommend to people? It could be a book, movie, show, musician.
I'm a huge learner from YouTube, and I recently started doing books. Two of my favorite books that I highly suggest people should read are, I like to read books that I can actually learn from. Mm-hmm. I don't like to read Harry Potter. I really don't. I don't think I can learn much from it.
Sure.
Like I'm like, I can learn some emotional stuff maybe about myself. I'm like, eh.
Yeah.
I'd rather. So I read a book. What is it? Good to Great.
Okay.
Good to Great is very good. It's about how it's about the top, like I think it's like top 20 companies that really were the top. Like they went from like, oh, we're doing good, but all the other companies that stayed on a steady rise, they went boom like
right.
this. So it talks about companies that really capitalized on websites when they first came out.
Right.
It's a really cool book. It'll talk about different companies. If you have a very business mind, it's very good. And then the other book I read was actually, I'm still reading it, 12 Rules of Life by Jordan Peterson.
Oh, yeah.
I actually really like that book. Some people take it and they read it, and I think a lot of the YouTube I've seen about it, some people get offended by it for some reason.
Yeah, he's a little controversial for reasons that...
Yeah, I know why he is, and we don't need to get into that, but what he's trying to do is the advice that I actually took in at Newman, which I think is you're in control of what you do, and don't really try to mess with things you're not in control of until you're ready, until you're actually self-sustaining. Don't go out and try to, well, he says like change the world and change stuff, and he's like, if you can't make your bed in the morning, then probably don't go try to solve communism. These big topics. People need to read that book and actually think about how it can help, and don't think about getting offended.
Sure.
Like I think that's the big thing, because I see it as what makes sense here. He makes a lot of connections to like God and stuff, but all he's doing really is telling a story. He's not telling people God, like he's using the stories from the Bible, because those are the oldest stories, and we can still learn from them, not even in a Christian way, just how to be a human being, like is really cool to me. So
I've listened to a lot of his interviews, and my brother has read that book, and he said it's one of his favorite books.
Oh, it's
highly recommend it.
It's amazing. It's just, it literally is just, you are in control of yourself. Like if someone comes up to you and is being a jerk, you are in control of that. If you get angry, like this isn't something I got from that book, but the anger thing, I always played soccer with a lot of anger all the time. I'd get so mad, but I would control it and put it into the game. And that was one of the reasons I was a good player, I think, because I played with intensity, but I was able to control it.
Right.
My soccer coach there actually said, do your job, or you are in control of yourself, which even came down to your emotions. If you're sad, you can still choose to wake up, do your morning routine, eat your 2 eggs, and try to have a productive day. Do something right, and then treat yourself to a nice lunch. Yeah, like that's really what I believe.
That's awesome.
I really think people are in way more control than they think.
Yeah. And I'll definitely include all of these links to these books and everything in the show notes and everything to share.
Great.
This,
and there's actually some YouTube videos that if they read the Jordan Peterson, he just gives like little 1 and 2 minute explanations of the rule. It's great. It's actually
I've watched. I haven't read the book yet, but I've seen all the rules.
I like to read the rule, watch the video, and then think about it for like just a couple minutes.
Yeah. And if you haven't heard Jordan Peterson speak, you might not agree with everything he says, but he's a fantastic speaker. And
yeah, I really like people that have a super common sense, relatable, like you can be, like if you sat down with complete unbiased and heard him talk, you'd be like, that makes sense.
Right.
Like I really
He's
enjoy
a very
that.
reasonable guy.
Yeah, I enjoy that.
So what's a favorite failure? Any aspect of life. Could be soccer, sports, school, work.
Well, so I didn't fail out of KU, but I remember I had a low enough GPA that I was almost embarrassed to come back.
Sure.
And part of me now kind of wishes like I went back and I proved that I could do it, but part of me I felt like was dealing with failure in that sense and using that to make the right decision and do what was best for myself. And it turned out pretty well.
Yeah.
So I think I went the right avenue. I think that failure itself, you can learn from pretty much anything, but it's important to remember what you need to do differently, but don't sulk and sit on it forever. Like, that's what I was doing when I went to the job interviews and I couldn't go back to soccer, right? I sulked. I sat on it for 2 months, and then this fell in my lap. And I have to thank God and my dad for that. Thank God my dad went out drinking one night. Like, that's just so funny to me. So yeah, I think definitely the transition from failing school at KU, pretty much failing, to being mature enough to see that and make a change.
Absolutely. What is your definition of success?
Oof.
That's a tough one.
But that's vague, but
whatever that means to you.
I think it varies from person to person. There's plenty of people that can be happy. I don't want to say this as a bad thing, but this is what popped in my head, like being a trash man.
Yeah,
like, a lot of people it's a respectable job. They get paid a decent wage, and maybe that's enough.
Doing a service that's necessary.
Yeah, and maybe that's enough to make them happy. And I think that success actually comes down to different areas. If someone is unsuccessful in the business world, maybe because they're lacking the right skills, but they are a really, really good husband, I think that is something that people will really respect. I don't think when you meet someone, you should treat them 100% with respect. That makes no sense to me. It's like, if someone walks up to me and I don't know if you're being honest, you shouldn't treat them with respect right away. They should say hi to you and introduce themselves. Then they earn a little bit of respect and that kind of thing. People that do that but can take that into their business, take that into their family life, I definitely think that would be successful.
Yeah.
If I failed at Feest, but I had maybe I have a kid along the way and that kid grows up to be just a decent human being, I think that's successful.
That's
I
awesome.
really do.
What's a life motto you live by, or what's some of the best advice you've received?
I really think the best advice you can ever have is you're in control. I really do. I think that you being in control is one of the biggest things to think about.
Yeah.
I think if you stop blaming other people for your problems and see what you did in the situation can be terrible. It can be awful. But if you still look at it and be like, what could I have done differently here?
Yeah.
Like I think there's a weird article or something of a guy who gets like put in jail in Russia, and he still thinks about what he did to get there, and he ends up coming to this level in his brain that he ends up being happy when he dies. And it's just like, that's pretty insane to me.
That is, yeah.
Like, he just gets put in jail for no reason, and he still thinks about what he could have done differently.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a level of intelligence that I don't think I'll ever reach, or mindfulness that I won't reach.
So what's your favorite part of Wichita, or a hidden gem, maybe a restaurant, or just any part of Wichita?
This is easy. If you haven't heard of Gaga's Grub, have you heard of that?
I've heard of it, have not had it.
So it's this short guy. So this random account called Gaga's Grub messaged me. He said, hey, I do these dinners for 5 or 6 people. It's a secluded dinner. It costs X amount, but I'm going to do it for you for free if you just post it on social media and all this. What he does is it's like $50 a plate, like a seat. And you can bring your own beer, bring your own whatever.
Okay.
He has a fridge there for you. It's really funny. And you'll sit at like an old style diner. And what he does is he'll come out, introduce himself. He'll cook for you. And he cooks you about, I think it's 10 to 15 courses.
Wow.
The stuff will range from like, he does tacos really well. So maybe one's tacos. But literally one was like a pho spoon, like the soup spoon. It was like that with a like liquid spicy thing that he had put in it, like a yogurt almost, and a white chocolate, like Hershey or something on top. And that was one of the courses.
Wow,
and
it's like an experience. Yeah,
it's completely different than you will ever experience. I never would have known it would exist unless you reached out to me. And he just grew to a new location. So I would highly suggest following Gaga's Grub.
Okay, I will.
And if you have a big
Definitely
family
check that out.
event, an anniversary or something, it's really fun to do.
Cool, that's awesome. Is there anything you wish Wichita had that it doesn't, or something that you would improve about Wichita?
I think the only thing I would improve about Wichita is it does get a little cliquey. Mm-hmm. It does seem like people separate, and I would rather people be brought together. Like, even with these groups that have the community involvement ego or mindset or whatever, they still sometimes end up, secluding themselves.
Right.
Like, that would be a big thing. I think in the entrepreneur world, it's hard to start something new here. Mm-hmm. People accept it, but they don't want to actually like go all in on it right away, right. Which makes sense. Like, that's smart, but maybe that ends up being a good thing. And I'm just seeing it poorly because places like you said, Silicon Valley and all these places, they get money pumped in there and stuff fails all the time. So if I would change anything, I would just hope that if I was to grow this big enough in Wichita, that people would really accept it and use it, and use it for the right reasons, not to just get drunk, like to invite your brother out for a drink, or
definitely.
Someone who's going through something, be like, that friend that's just sitting in the house, who's like depressed for whatever reason, and they're just sitting in the house going, I think I'm just going to watch Netflix. You as a good friend should know that's probably not the best thing for them.
Like, hey, which one of these specials do you want to hit up?
Well, we could go have half price tacos. Let's get you a good meal from a local business, and support our neighbor.
Local, yeah, absolutely. What does Wichita mean to you?
I think it's always going to be home for sure. That's cliche and easy, but it's really comfortable to. So when I went to Pennsylvania and I broke my shoulder, I had driven up there. So I had to drive 19 hours back, obviously they can't see, but strapped with my hand, and I don't think people understand. I'm sure people have gone through this. Obviously, like, this is super obvious, but going through something that was like heart wrenching for me, like going from almost being pretty much a captain of a semi-pro team to like a week later driving myself home in pain for 19 hours, like sleeping in my car in between, like in states and stuff like that. I don't think you understand the relief when I showed up to my brother's house in Kansas City, but he's from Wichita.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And then, so just that, like, I remember Sam stayed up till I got in at like 3 a.m. He stayed up, he talked to me, he asked how everything was. I got to see my niece, and she was playing with me at 3 a.m. Or no, that was in the morning, but still, I got to see my niece. And I just remember when he went upstairs and went to bed, and it was 3:30 in the morning, I just laid back, and I am not a super emotional dude, but in that moment, I could feel my like heart drop into my stomach, and be like so much appreciation and gratitude in that like 1 second.
Oh yeah.
And like I can feel it now because like just remembering. And I think people need to have more moments like that where you actually see, and I think Wichita creates some of those moments for me.
That's awesome, man. So where can people find you? Social media or...
I think if you just type Lucas Scott H on Instagram, I should pop up. But I think it's Lucas_Scott_H.
Okay, and I'll link it too, so if people want to find you or the Feast.
That's my personal one. Whatever. I do some like weird modeling stuff every once in a while, but if you want to see that, really. But I like interacting with people, so people that I try to say funny things, even if it's like a serious model pose, I still try to put a joke in there.
Sure.
But Feast is a big one. It's I'm pretty sure it's Feast_mobile, and that's FEEST. Pretty much you're going to just see some local food and drinks and see our journey, throughout the whole thing.
Awesome.
We stay away from live video, but you'll get to see, some pictures of good food and drinks, and we'll convince you to go there. That's
cool.
Pretty much what we'll do.
Any final comments or statements to the listeners out there?
No, I think you honestly covered a lot. You did a good job, and I hope that people do realize that you don't need to have a lot of money to do something. You just need to actually reach out and find the right people and have a good product.
Yeah, you
have to have a good product.
Yeah, that's what it all.
If you can't convince the guy to build your product just because the product is good, then your product's probably not very good.
Yeah.
So.
All right, man. Well, thanks for sitting down. I appreciate it. Nice to finally meet you, and we'll share the word about Feast. Hopefully it grows. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Thank you to everyone who stuck it out and listened to this episode of the Wichita Life Podcast. Thanks to the local Wichita band, The Caves, for use of their song, and thank you to Fairmount Coffee for allowing us to record at your facility. You can find links to everything we discussed in the show notes at wichitalifeict.com. If you have any comments or recommendations for our podcast, feel free to contact us at wichitalifeict@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, hasta luego.